Roger, what do you make of this? I mean, obviously, does it bring back memories of this trial for you?
Well, this doesn't. I've been watching the People versus OJ Simpson, and that really takes me back. It takes me about a minute. I sit there and watch it, and takes a minute to get transported back to those days and relive those days. But I got to tell you, I think this knife business is, I smell. I think it's a little fishy, and I think it's bogus. First of all, what we know about it is that someone found this weapon or found this knife and then gave it to a police officer. But we have no idea, at least so far, who that person was, when they found it, where they found it, under what condition they found it. And I've heard throughout the years that there's been, more than one knife found in and around that area. So, it's hard for me to get really excited about this. And the second thing is, of course, there will never be another prosecution, assuming they could trace this knife and found DNA and could somehow put it in Simpson's hand. There will never be another prosecution because double jeopardy prevents that.
But there could be closure for the family, and there also could be just to finally, once and for all, know that there wasn't somebody else involved, right? So there is still something worth investigating through this evidence, right?
Well, I mean, obviously, I think there's something worth investigating, but, I think it happened 21 years ago. There's a whole generation of people that aren't really as excited about it as others are. I think most people have made up their mind as to who the murderer is in this case. And your comment about helping the families with closure, I hope that's true. And, of course, anything that would help them, I'm for. But I think they pretty well know and think, and have come to the conclusion who did this, and that's O.J. Simpson.
Roger, I'm curious. You say you're watching the FX series. I'm kind of transfixed by it. Are they nailing it? Does it ring true to you, or are they taking dramatic license?
Well, there's some dramatic license, of course, and I, certainly wasn't in on the lawyers' meetings and what went on in the prosecution's office, as well as with the defense office. I was a Los Angeles lawyer, a California lawyer, and knew and still know many of the players that were involved in the case. I knew Shapiro quite well, and others, and I think that in some ways they get it. I mean, it's a dramatic story, but it's a story that is absolutely, I find, fascinating. I wasn't sure I was going to watch it, but once I did, they hooked me.
This could be a broad answer. It could be a short answer. I'm not sure. But if this murder had happened in 2016, how much difference would there have been in the trial? How would it have been executed? Would it have been that big of a difference from 1994 to 2016?
Well, I hate to be cliches, but it's true. Hindsight is 20/20. Would they have done things differently? In sense of perhaps learning from the first trial, I think so. I mean, I think one of the things that they point out in the television series, at least, is the sense that Marcia Clark never, I think, totally understood how that convicting O.J. Simpson in Los Angeles was going to be a difficult thing to do, as the way things were in 1994 and 1995. So I think, and I also think that, the defense was exceptionally lucky in that they had a judge like Judge Ito, who, I think was bending over backwards to be fair, and in doing so, in my opinion, lost control of that courtroom to the defense team. Other judges would have never let that happen. So there's a lot of things you look back and say, would it have been different today? Who knows? But you can certainly look back at when the trial took place and say these were, questionable decisions that were made then.
All right, two quick questions before we let you go. The police officer that supposedly had this knife, Roger,
yeah.
I mean, could he get in trouble for withholding evidence, possible evidence?
Well, it depends what he knew, when he knew it. If he had the knife at the time of the trial, certainly he could be in trouble for withholding that evidence. If he got the knife several years after, and depending on what the statute of limitations is, and off the top of my head, I can't tell you, but I would suggest it's somewhere in the 3-year area. All those things would come into play. And are you really withholding evidence when there's no case pending? I mean, there's a lot of questions that have to come into before you can answer that.